Hey, good morning. It's Jen here with Wild Savvy, and this is episode 6 of Moving Forward with Hope, Happiness, and Heart. Alright, today I'm going to talk about dealing with disappointment. Oh, I am on a little bit early today, so I have another appointment at 9 Pacific, so I am getting this squeezed in. So, yesterday I had a little, yesterday it sort of started on Monday as a potential, but I've had something that I've really been looking forward to, and there's a little wrench that got thrown into it. Hopefully it's only a half disappointment and not completely. I'm not going to get all into that because I know, here's why I decided to talk about this, is because I know in this past year, and, we always have disappointments, but in this past year, everyone has had so many disappointments, plans that didn't work out due to something with COVID or lockdowns. I haven't gotten to see my new nephew, who isn't that new anymore. He was born last March or April. Anyway, so all those plans got just completely put on hold indefinitely at this point. So I know that we've all had disappointments. People have lost jobs, businesses have closed. I mean, really big, major disappointments, or just not being able to see family members or get together, that kind of stuff. So everyone is dealing with their own disappointments, and there's a laundry list of them, I'm sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit today. Having this hit me yesterday kind of hit home, and I'll be honest, I was having a day. It was upsetting, and kind of put me in a crabby mood part of the day. So I can really get, I just got in touch with how people are feeling, and let's put some of these tools to real life practical use. And I just want to get really real, and I do understand when you have a disappointment, sometimes it's easier said than done to, to just like make the best of it. We can say that. But really it's kind of what it boils down to. If you have a disappointment, you can make a choice. It's totally up to you to choose how you're going to respond to that. Like I said, I got in a bit of a funk and kind of in a crabby mood, and that's okay. We can feel what we feel. So if we try to stuff it down and pretend, oh yeah, I'm fine, everything's happy, then it just sort of like builds up like a pressure cooker, and that's not good for anyone. It just becomes stressful. So sometimes you have to give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling, even if it's not happiness in the moment. So that's totally okay. And then, don't wallow in it for days on end, because that's not going to be healthy, and that's not going to be in your best interest. So, I have a value that I teach, personal responsibility, and that's where this comes in, where you actually have a choice to decide how you want to feel, how you want to proceed, how you want to feel after the initial, authentic feelings that you have, and then you can choose to say, okay, well, I'm not going to let this keep me down. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to figure out a way. So personal responsibility is not about blame or fault, because things do happen outside of your control. It's how you choose to respond to them, even if you're just talking about in the long run versus the immediate response. If you have a disappointment, it's perfectly natural to feel disappointed or sad or frustrated, because you feel like there's not anything that you can really do about that situation. So, embrace those feelings, and then choose to move forward from that. That's what all of this is about, is moving forward. How do you do that? Okay, so first step is feel the feelings that you're feeling. Let yourself do that. The second step is to say, okay, now I'm responsible for what happens next. I might not be responsible for what happened, what wrench got thrown into my plans or whatever may or may not be. But I am responsible for what I do next now. And you get resourceful and find a way to make the most of it. So if you have, like, for example, what happened with me is that I had a trip planned, and well, I still have the trip planned. But one of the people that we were going to see has been diagnosed with COVID. She tested positive for COVID, so we're not going to be able to see her. And, but there's other people that we were going to see. Fortunately, she has not been around the other person that we were mainly going to see, but that person is getting tested anyways. So we're like, and our room is non-refundable. So we're like, okay, do we, if the other person tests positive too, do we just not go and burn the, just count it as a loss, or do we just go and make the most of it anyways? So we're, talking about ideas of how do we make the most of this and not just let it trash our whole entire plans. So maybe you have something that has happened that was a disappointment, that's some plans that you weren't able to do as is. Let me know in the comments if you have, and we'll see if we can come up with some ideas for how to move forward on that. So the biggest thing is, don't let yourself get discouraged for too long, and don't beat yourself up for whatever feelings you are having, because if you start feeling guilty for feeling bad, then that's no good either. Then that's just like a double whammy for you. All right, so a little bit more about the personal responsibility, because that's actually what I initially wanted to talk about today, and then I decided to work in this disappointment, since everyone has had so many disappointments this year. So whatever it is, like for example, say if you have a job situation, well, let me just talk about the principle of personal responsibility first before we go into examples. It really gets you out of a state of victimhood, because there's a lot of victim mentality kind of that's been in our culture for, I'm going to say, like the past maybe 20 years or so, and I think that it's getting people to want to control each other. You can't say that because that offends me. Well, in all honesty, you don't know what offends a person, so it's virtually impossible to avoid someone feeling offensive. I mean, you could say something that seems like the most benign thing to most people, and there might be someone out there who feels offended or triggered by that. And it's because of whatever is in their past. Like I might get triggered by something that's totally benign to most people because of something in my past. And we all have those things. So instead of trying to control everything that other people do, because really what other people do is totally outside of our control, and not being able to control that can kind of make us feel like a victim if we feel like that's the solution. If we feel like the solution to, us being happy or us feeling worthy is the way other people talk to us or behave towards us, then we're putting ourselves in a vulnerable position where they have the power over us. So if instead you say, okay, I take personal responsibility for how I feel about things, for how I choose to react to other people, because there's people out there that are ignorant and stupid, and they're gonna say ignorant things, and sometimes people are just saying things that are truly benign to most people. There's the whole gamut. It's like, bullying, and I'm certainly not pro-bullying, and I do think that, it needs to be balanced. So it needs to be balanced with discussing with people what's why something is offensive, along with, hey, if they still choose to be that ignorant bully that wants to say mean things, then, I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to have personal responsibility to understand that that's not really about me, and I'm not going to let that affect my self-worth. So that's kind of the gist of the idea of personal responsibility. And it also carries over to just things that happen that nobody really has control over, because, things happen, and it's how we choose to move forward with it. So if you want to boost your happiness and move forward, self-worth is a huge part of that, and also being really resourceful and figuring out how to make the most of any situation. So I have an acquaintance who, if something gets difficult, like in about 2 seconds, he just wants to throw in the towel. Oh, nope, that's not working. And I'm totally the opposite. I am like, I will try this and that and the other thing, and if that doesn't work, I'm gonna figure out a way. So I say, I'm like, it's a really old song, so you may or may not know it, but I think my grandmother had it, the ant to move the rubber tree plant. I think it's also in kids stuff. So, but I just remember that from when I was really, really young, that the ant was moving the rubber tree plant. And so I say, that's me. I'm going to move that. I'm going to move that, whatever it takes. So, and literally I've done that, like moving furniture and stuff. All right. So let's get back to, now that I've explained the principle, let's get back to when you have disappointments in your life. All right. So if you have something that doesn't go well, what are some specific things that you can do to make the most of it? Obviously, that depends on what it is. But it's really, the important thing is to have the attitude that I'm going to do everything that I can to make the most of it, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to, all right, first, like I said, 1, let yourself feel the disappointment. That's totally okay. Some people think it's not okay to feel sad or disappointed or frustrated, and kind of, in the personal development industry, there's a lot of fake it till you make it. Well, I'm not really a big fan of that. I'm actually a big fan of feeling what you really feel, because our feelings are completely valid. So I think that's actually really, really important to recognize, that our feelings are valid, and that we have to let ourselves feel them for a while, for a minute, maybe for a few hours, and then say, okay, now it's time to move forward. What am I going to do? So you can just brainstorm different ideas of, okay, how can I make the most of it? And if there's not anything that you can do with that particular situation, then you can just, it's like how we all found a way. We all found a way to move forward with life, even though it seemed like it stalled. Back in March, our life kind of seemed like it all completely stalled. And then we had to figure out ways to move forward, using technology, just taking other precautions, and we all managed to adapt. So let's chat about that in the comments after. Drop some of your ideas, some of your situations. Like if you've had any disappointments and you're not quite sure how to deal with it, and you want to find some ways to move forward, let's brainstorm those together. So I will also be coming on early tomorrow, just to let you know. Well, I'll be driving tomorrow, so I'll see. I might come on at 9, and I might just be doing it from the passenger seat of the car. So drop your thoughts below, drop your questions below, and we'll do some comment coaching. So let's chat, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a super happy, fabulous day. Thanks for joining me.